Hey guys, welcome back to Two Birds and a Third Football Podcast. We got Josh, Ricky, and Hank here for you today. Today's show is brought to you by Hidden Valley Ranch, and that's because it's right here in the lovely state of California, down by Santa Barbara, just a short drive down Highway 1 from here. So, yeah, and who doesn't love a little Hidden Valley Ranch in their life?
That stuff's disgusting. What are you talking about?
Also brought to
I guess
you.
Ricky isn't a ranch guy.
Also,
No, I'm not.
Also
No.
brought to you by a possible queso coming to Chipotle. So,
Oh, yeah. They might
that'll
do
be
that.
good.
So today we're going to talk about some football, mostly football today, but we're going to cover some of our teams, rising stock in some of our players, as well as does Roger Goodell hold too much power from his throne up top of the NFL world. And we're going to wrap up with some buy and sell like we usually do.
Let's go into it.
Yep. So I'll start with the Ravens. First since I missed the last one with you guys, but you guys did great. The first preseason game, it was a strong showing from the defense. I mean, the first team defense played 2 series against the Redskins' first team offense and held them to -1 yard. So,
Really?
Yeah. The first team offense against the first team defense, the Redskins had -1 yard. Yeah, off 6 plays. Off 6 plays, they managed to get -1 yard. So I think paying on the defensive side of the ball is paying off right now. I know it's early, only 2 series, but all the starters, from what it sounds like from all the interviews, they wanted to get back in. This defense is hungry. They are ready to go. And I think Ozzie Newsome, I know we have a lot of fans who are complaining about our offensive line right now. It is a little banged up, but I think with some shuffling and the way that the Ravens, we've talked about this before, Ricky, the way the Ravens develop linemen, it's almost the one area of no matter how, like if we have rookies, if we have second-year guys, I always feel like the Ravens know how to bring up linemen and make them good, no matter what. I mean,
Go
ahead.
Sorry, I have a question. So, did Joe Flacco play any snaps?
No, he actually hasn't even participated since mandatory training camps begun because of his back. They are just playing it safe. He feels healthy. He feels fine. His range of motion isn't impeded. It's not a disc or spine issue, like DJ was saying. He tweaked his back lifting, but because he's the franchise quarterback and we pay him,
Nothing serious.
Yeah, it's nothing serious. We are being cautious. The only thing I think this is going to affect is his chemistry, especially with Jeremy Maclin being new and Steve Smith being gone, Larry Donnell coming in as a tight end. I think he's going to lose some of that chemistry during games, but they're not saying that he's going to sit out all of training camp. They're just saying he's going to sit out all the preseason games. So we won't get Flacco in preseason.
Okay, so now another question. So has there been anything popping off your screen in terms of certain players? Like, I know, what's his name? Humphrey, the Marlon Humphrey, your first-round pick. Any, like, news, like, or anything that you've seen that has, been like, oh, this is like we're trending up in this way or trending down in this area?
Tim Williams, our pass rush specialist that we got for a steal in the 3rd round because of some off-field issues from Alabama. During training camp, he has apparently made just about every single person on the offensive line look silly. That's including the first team offense. And not because they're not good, it's because he apparently has some incredible explosiveness and some shifty moves that have gotten him into the backfield for either tackles for loss or what would be sacks, but obviously it's training camp, so they're not hitting quarterbacks and stuff. But Tim Williams, 3rd round pick, he's really standing out. And I think just defensively all around from what I've been reading is that they just look stout. They look like they are ready to play. They are taking control in the trenches, which is where football games can be won or lost. We retained Brandon Williams. He's been on fire. Michael Pierce was an undrafted rookie last year, now in his 2nd year. He's anchoring at defensive tackle or defensive end. And then we also have up-and-comer undrafted free agent this year, Patrick Ricard at defensive end, who is a massive 6'5", 340-pound man who has apparently been manhandling people and making people at the NFL level look silly out of small school Maine.
Oh, wow.
He's from Maine, so
I know DJ isn't here, but I must say, and I want him when he comes back. I want him to have his own thing about the Browns. DeShone Kizer is impressing me, like
Ricky,
a lot.
You were not on the show earlier when we first started, but before the draft, pre-draft, I think I mentioned to DJ maybe 20 to 30 times because he was high on the show.
I think we were both on board with that as well.
Yeah, he was so high on Deshaun Watson, and I kept telling him, I'm like, DJ, second round, DeShone Kizer. Second round, DeShone Kizer. And I think you're right, Ricky. He looks ready. I mean, he looks comfortable out there. He's moving well in the pocket. He threw that comeback touchdown to win the game, stepped up with the pass rush closing in from both sides, climbed the pocket, made a perfect bomb down the field, 40-plus yards for a touchdown for a come-from-behind win. And you don't see that very much from the Browns. So even though it's preseason, even though it's the end of the game against the Saints, who we all know don't have a very good defense, it's still a promising track that we're seeing these Browns go down.
I think that what the Browns are doing is fantastic. I mean, I know we saw a lot from Mitch Trubisky. I know I was hard on him because I felt like he was way too raw of a prospect to, come out immediately to start. But I mean, I'm not saying, and I mean, like, they have the intangibles. It's just, can they put themselves together and make themselves a franchise quarterback?
Also understand that this was like the first preseason game.
Well, yeah, obviously.
So,
I mean, I understand. Like,
they're not all gonna play this, and they were all playing against like second string, third string players. So
they were honestly probably playing against a lot of guys who we're not going to see on a 53-man roster because it was the end of the fourth quarter of the first preseason game.
Yeah, obviously, and I mean that doesn't mean like obviously as well. Like DeShone Kizer might end up throwing 3 interceptions in the next game, and like so it's kind of like after you see a track record, you make an assumption. Like for example, with Dak Prescott, it was like he was doing constantly well. It wasn't like he was regressing by any means. But anywho, I don't want to
one question I have for Josh is, do you worry about your strength and conditioning?
I don't necessarily worry about our strength and conditioning because I think the Ravens have some of the best strength and conditioning out there. Their physical is insanely hard, and all players who come to Baltimore and do their physical say that. Even if they're from other teams, they even come in and say, I did not expect it to be that hard. I think, dude, it's just injuries are the nature of the game, and the Ravens have been really, really lucky most of the franchise's history. But the last 3 years, we've just been absolutely hit by that injury bug. It's just something that's going to happen. A lot of the injuries are freak injuries, something that would have happened no matter what your strength and conditioning is. Dennis Pitta blowing his hip out again. They said he was just running an out pattern and caught the ball in the middle of the field, didn't even get touched, hurt himself. Rashad Perryman hurt his hamstring this year running. I mean, Kenneth Dixon blew out his knee before he was even training with the team when he was training down in Louisiana. I don't think it has to do with our strength and conditioning. I think it just has to do with we are being hit with the bad luck right now. We are the team that is having the injuries throughout, and I just think that's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think we should move on.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
So let's move on to. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, sorry. I was just going to add in one more guy. Look out for cornerback, undrafted rookie cornerback Jalen Hill, especially with the injuries, and because we had to put Maurice Kennedy and Tavon Young, our nickel corners, on IR. So I think Ladarius Webb's going to start the season, but you could see Marlon Humphreys or Jalen Hill slide into that nickel spot as well.
Slide right in.
So moving on, we got let's move on to talking about player stock. So we're gonna start with you, Josh, and basically you're gonna say this player stock is rising, this player stock is falling, and why. And Go on ahead.
Oh, my team, correct? Or just
Yes,
in general?
yes. Go on your team, yeah.
Okay. So the player who I think their stock is rising, and it was already kind of high, but Tony Jefferson, who we picked up in free agency, he has just looked, and he's a young player. He's only in his 5th year right now. Came over from Arizona, and he looks like he has amalgamated that defense in the back end, especially with him and Weddle being in the back. They have a really, really good chemistry. Both of them have been acting like quarterbacks of the back end. And it's kind of awesome to watch these practices and see both of them screaming at linebackers and other cornerbacks and coming up to the line and pointing out assignments. I mean, it's pretty cool to see these two generals, even though Tony Jefferson's young. It's cool to see these two guys back there kind of taking the reins and taking control. So I think he's on his way up. And then, like I said earlier, basically all of the defensive players we picked this year in our draft look solid. Stock that's falling rapidly. And you've heard all the rumors about bringing Colin Kaepernick because Ryan Mallett's stock is almost at negative right now. that guy, and I don't think he's a bad quarterback. His first preseason game looked horrible. Granted, he was down most of the starting offensive line, and Mike Wallace, Brashad Perryman, and Jeremy Maclin didn't play in the first team offense. So he was throwing to 3rd and 4th stringers, even though he was running the first team offense. But still, he's looked bad in practice. He had a practice the other day where he threw 5 interceptions, and they said 2 other passes were nearly picked off but just dropped by the defensive backs. He could have thrown 7 interceptions in one practice. I don't care if it's just practice. That is not good to hear from anybody.
I remember him. Well, he was out of Arkansas.
Yep.
And everyone thought he was going to be amazing, but
didn't he back up Tom Brady for a little bit?
He backed up Tom Brady. Yeah. I think he backed up Tom Brady after Brian Hoyer left.
Right, and then what's with the Texans getting players from the Patriots and not
obviously no, that's the Patriots dumping ground.
They've been getting coaches. They've been getting coaches from the Patriots too. Their current head coach used to be the offensive coordinator. Romeo Crennel used to be the defensive coordinator.
They're like the Patriots light or the Patriots dumping ground, like I said.
It's like they're the Patriots dumping ground, like we're the Buffalo Bills dumping ground.
Yeah, but let's hope tomorrow Ryan Mallett can turn his stock around for the better. I mean, he's a backup quarterback, guys. I mean, I know it's kind of hard to pick on him, but most of the other impact players are either injured or their stock's on the up and up. There's not many people who haven't played well so far for the Ravens in training camp and haven't really been putting on a show, except for Ryan Mallett. He's really the only guy who's looked considerably bad in the preseason and in training camp.
Gotcha.
So Hank, go next? Okay.
You want to go?
So I've actually got a few. Stock is rising on Mac Hollins, wide receiver from UNC, who the Packers commentators called Matt Collins when he scored his touchdown. So the play where Carson Wentz was about to get completely smoked by Clay Matthews, he throws a really nice pass over the field to Mac Hollins. Hollins just stiff arms both defensive backs, including Kevin King from Washington, and ends up having a pretty good touchdown. And with Jordan Matthews gone, I think that if Mac Hollins plays well, then he could definitely step up at that slot receiver position because he's got decent hands and he's pretty tall himself. And of course, we know that Jordan Matthews fractured his ribs at first practice in Buffalo, which really sucks. But I mean, it's not really our problem anymore as we've picked up Ronald Darby. and the lowering stock on the other end from Nelson Aguilar, the GOAT.
Yeah, exactly. You can't hate on him, bro.
Who had 2 opportunities in the game. One, an end around that ended up going for negative yards because he kept going towards the sidelines instead of cutting up field. And then his second opportunity was a 2-point conversion, which the ball went right through his hands. So,
what happened to him, Hank? Wasn't he good in college?
He was like okay, but he's nowhere near the level of talent of a Juju Smith-Schuster. He definitely should have been drafted in the 3rd or 4th round, but Chimp pushed the button way too early. Like, he was on most teams' draft boards in like the 3rd or 4th round, and I mean, you draft him behind, even in front of a guy like Brashard Perriman, who the Eagles drafted after or before Perriman was drafted, who probably would have been a better guy to have on their team than Aguilar. Aguilar, he's definitely got speed. He's definitely got route running abilities. He just doesn't trust his hands at all.
Clearly, they're missing.
He doesn't trust his abilities, and
is he like a Darius Hayward-Bay?
Worse, because at least Darius Hayward-Bay could catch at
sometimes
a certain extent.
Gosh, dang.
But he definitely has a case of the dropsies. He's in his own head, I believe.
Hands of buttery stone.
Yeah. Then let's go to the quarterback position. On the decline, Matt McGroin, or what he's usually called, Matt McGloin, looked terrible. He played for the Raiders before, and now he's the number 3 quarterback for the Eagles. I don't even think the Eagles are going to carry 3 quarterbacks. And I even think that just by sitting on the bench and watching, Nick Foles' stock is rising because the Eagles realize that they don't want to go with this guy as their second even on their team, or even having a chance to have him. The guy throws off his back foot too much. The ball sails too much. He's just not an accurate passer at the least.
We all know Nick Foles is the GOAT, obviously, so his stock is always rising.
Yeah, but no comment. So, and then on a final matter, the stock is rising on Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's an undrafted safety, Trey Sullivan, who made a nice hit on a Packers receiver and jarred the ball loose for a fumble. So his stock is rising, and obviously I do have to hate on somebody. I think his name is Jalen Watkins, who played safety before, who would consistently get lost all the time. So that, I feel, is stock lowering and rising. I mean, you could even say that Derek Barnett's stock kind of rose that day. The Eagles' offensive line, their stock lowered, which, by the way, John Ritchie, who used to play fullback for the Eagles and the Raiders, he was on discussing how Dom Capers, the defensive coordinator of the Packers, was calling these complex blitzes, which is something you usually don't do in the first game of the preseason, because it's kind of like you have like a vanilla play calling, and like basically anything goes. You're just basically looking for how the players are able to play with what's put in front of them. And he kind of called it Bush League that this was going on, and could have been one of the reasons why the Eagles' offensive line was struggling. But it was really funny because Trey Sullivan made this monstrous hit on Packers receiver, and Mike Holmgren was obviously upset because he thought it was a dirty hit. But I'm like, dude, your linebackers are blitzing. You're
Mike Holmgren?
Or not Mike Holmgren.
Mike McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy. They both look similar now with that they have the beard. But I was like, you're kind of a hypocrite because your defense was you were calling blitzes all night. So, come on. And that's all I have. That was a mouthful. I apologize.
No, it's fine. Okay, so as for the Cowboys, there's a couple players stock rising and stock falling. There are some players that just cut them. So stock up, Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is really surprising to me because I wasn't expecting much from him. And considering the fact that he has thrown 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in this preseason, for the most part, he's been very accurate. He can put the ball downfield where it has to be. I mean, he went 9 for 11 for 104 yards in the last preseason game. I mean, he did much better than Kellen Moore and Luke McCown. I'm gonna give Luke McCown a bit of a pass because he was just signed, but we'll see later on. But I think
you
that
also
Cooper Rush,
you haven't seen McCown play either.
Yeah, true. But anywho, I think Cooper Rush is at a point where how he's been producing, you're gonna have to save a roster spot for him because someone will pick him up. Yeah. It is a bound that someone's gonna pick him up. I mean, that's what happened to Matt Moore, when he signed with the Cowboys, back in like 2009 or whatever. Yeah.
You guys had Matt Moore.
Yeah, we had Matt Moore. Yeah, as an undrafted free agent, and then he got signed off waivers.
The quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. He went to Carolina, right?
I believe. I don't remember what college he went to, but anywho, so yeah.
No. That's the team he went to after Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. Yes. He went. Yeah. I couldn't hear you, but it's fine. Okay. So yeah, Cooper Rush stock up. There's this guy named Lenny Jones. He's been doing fantastic along the defensive line, and I mean, my goodness, like he's just been a tackling machine for the most part, like, or at least helping in tackles for the most part, being on the ball. Along with that, Xavier Woods stock up. I mean, he looked amazing. He was graded the highest. Had the highest grade out of any safety out of the first preseason game after the first week of the preseason, which is fantastic. I mean, he's on the ball, and he always pursues at angles that are very good. So it's not like he's over pursuing or under pursuing. And then Rico Gathers, obviously. I mean, I'm not going to get too much into detail because that's pretty self-explanatory. His production on the field has been fantastic. The only mistake he's been making, I believe, was like he wasn't lined up on the line properly or something. But other than that, he's been playing the ball. I mean, after Noah Brown fumbled that ball during the preseason game, he was on the ball and he was underneath the pile. So it's good. He has good football awareness. He's always playing the ball. And I mean, catching 2 touchdowns in 2 straight weeks, fantastic job. I think he secured himself a roster spot. He did get a concussion, and I don't think he's playing this week. But I expect him to get a roster spot. Now, as for stock down, Lance Lenore's just cut him because he fumbled the football.
The punt returner who fumbled?
Yes, cut him.
Yeah, cut him. Kelly was like, "Who is that? Who is that?" I was like, "He's gonna get released, so it doesn't matter."
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into Lance Lenore. He's obviously gonna be gone. So Oscar offensive lineman Dan Skipper and Emmett Cleary. I think Dan Skipper is extremely tall. He's like 6'10". So the problem is he's so tall. It's hard for him to get good angles and good, position when oncoming linemen are, coming at him. So I don't think he's gonna get a roster spot, or I don't know if he's gonna get on the practice squad either. It's just because the way he's been playing. It's just same for Emmett Cleary. Same thing.
The thing is, I remember when the Eagles had an offensive tackle named King Dunlap, who people often joked and called him Queen Dunflap, which I will say I dabbled in that nickname. He was 6'8". He was just way too tall to play on the offensive line. Like the peak height and weight, it should be around 6 feet to like 6'4", like 300 to 320 pounds is what is like the best height and weight. Otherwise, if you're taller than that, you should probably be trying to play like tight end or wide receiver.
Jesus,
I mean, that's what I would suggest.
10 tight end. Holy crap. No, but yeah. So, anywho, this might be a surprise in terms of stock, falling. Well, there is Kellen Moore. That's not really a surprise. He didn't really look so well. But
rabbit.
I'm not gonna get into that because I already did get into that. Lyle Collins, because not too much. It's just I think I haven't seen enough of him at the right tackle position because the first week against Arizona in the Hall of Fame game he looked phenomenal. Now he's looking He didn't really have a great game. Hopefully this is just an off night.
Mm-hmm.
But keep an eye out for him. And I think finally, in terms of Cowboys player stock falling, I guess we'll touch on Kellen Moore. The only reason Kellen Moore is going to get a spot is on the roster is because of how intelligent he is and how he's been acquainted to Scott Linehan. And since he's Scott Linehan's teacher's pet, he won't get cut. But I just think his throwing motion is just way too awkward.
Does Scott Linehan feed him carrots and celery?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, clearly it's the Kellen Moore diet,
and he eats it like this.
Yeah, exactly like a rabbit. No, but yeah, I just think Kellen Moore. Yes, it's not because he's left-handed. It's just the way he throws the football is just ridiculous. Not ridiculous. It's so awkward. It's kind of hard for the receivers to pursue the ball.
He doesn't really. He throws it. He doesn't throw it with enough power.
Exactly. And also he's a bit small. But anywho, I think I've been going on for long enough. Those are the players I think stock's rising and falling. So I think we should move on to, if I could find. Okay, we should talk about overrated / underrated teams. So basically, we're gonna go through each of us. You're gonna name a team that you think is overrated and why, and underrated and why. It could be any team. It could be New England if you think they're overrated or underrated. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. But anywho, let's go ahead and start with you, Josh. Who do you think is an overrated team, and who do you think is an underrated team, and
why? I think an overrated team is the Colts. Everyone always just assumes because of Andrew Luck, you're going to be good, but that's not guaranteed. All right, Ricky, take over. My dog's barking.
Yeah, apologies. So, a team that I think's overrated. Okay, y'all know it's coming, Hank.
Is it the Redskins?
No, it's obviously the Cleveland Browns. Haven't you seen it? Now I'm playing. It's obviously, in my opinion, the New York Giants. No, and I know I've said this before.
This is gonna be uploaded.
Yeah, I know. Listen, all those Giants fans that want to come at me, call me an idiot. Listen, like I said before, I think you guys are going to definitely at least win 9 games. I have you guys winning 10 to 11 games. But here's the thing. You guys are a 14-13 win team, and a lot of people are overrating them in the fact that they're overrating them in that they are diminishing how bad their weaknesses are, i.e. the offensive line and sometimes Eli Manning's play. I just think that with Eli Manning and how he plays in the regular season, you don't know what you're going to get in a game. Whenever the Giants are favored, I don't know why. The Giants are a weird team in how they play. Sometimes when they're not favored, they'll do phenomenally well and vice versa. But with that being said, I just think that when you look at the Giants, I think that they're overrated again in that they are not a 13-12 win team. I don't think I don't think they can reach that peak because of certain weaknesses. That being, they don't have a running game. Yes, they have Paul Perkins, but your offensive line can only do so much, and Eli Manning can only do so much behind said offensive line. So, I mean, it's not unfair. I understand their defense is elite and definitely top 5, but just because you have a top 5 defense does not mean that your offense can make your team NFC prohibited favorites, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Especially because they don't do it with the running game. If you have an incredibly stingy defense, you can get away with it if you just eat up clock and have a decent running game and maybe run for 3 to 4 yards a carry, because then you do first two plays running, and then you're left with third and super short. Play action, run play, whatever. You just eat up clock that way, Yeah. That's what keeps the defense on. But the Giants don't have a good running game. They rely on Odell Beckham.
They're just hoping that he's going to. They're just banking on the fact that he's going to, get yards in bulk for them, like those slant passes that he's able to take down the field.
And I want to.
Oh, go ahead, Ricky.
Oh no, I was just going to bring that point up. Is that I think the Giants made a mistake in signing Brandon Marshall, not because I'm not saying Brandon Marshall isn't going to fit. I just think that money that they allocated towards getting Brandon Marshall could have been used to getting a piece on the offensive line to help protect Eli Manning, or get a decent running back to help Eli Manning. Again, I think that the Giants, they aren't okay. If people are saying that, like, Colin Cowherd is underrating the Giants and calling them an 8-8 team, they're definitely not an. Yes, they can definitely they can definitely win 8 games. However, I don't think they can get past 12 wins. I think that their max is 11, mainly because of you can only do so much behind this offensive line. Yes, I could get proven wrong and the Giants could win 12, 13 wins, okay? Yeah, I'd be eating my own words. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, from what I'm being presented, that offensive line and running game can only do so much for Eli Manning. And many people are going to call me an idiot. And they're like, what are you talking about? They're not overrated. What are you talking about? Listen. Just shut up, okay? I could care less what you think.
Great response.
I am entitled to your opinion, as well as these people.
And I think that if Odell Beckham doesn't have a great day, then, or if you just try to feed him the ball all the time, he's not always going to get a first down, and plus that's a more 2-on-2 thing. Whereas if you just have a really, really solid running back like Le'Veon Bell, just give him the ball and he'll make plays. But when you're trying to just always give it to Odell Beckham, you also run the risk of, there's defense and you have to make the throw from the quarterback to him. It's not the same as just a handoff. Like, you can't just hand it off.
To finally move on to who I think is underrated, I want to just end on this point. With what you're saying is, absolutely true. But not only that, if you rely too much on a passing game, you put so much pressure on Eli Manning. I'm not saying he can't handle pressure, but the thing is when you have a bad offensive line and a terrible running game, or a below average running game, Eli Manning will be forced to throw the ball more, and that will result in more interceptions. And that's why I don't trust Eli Manning going into some of these games, like with the Steelers versus Giants game in Pittsburgh. I was like, Eli Manning is going to wet the bed and he is going to ruin this game for the Giants. And guess what? They ended up losing. Yes, I understand. They were going up against a very good team and the Pittsburgh Steelers, but that's besides the point. The point is Eli Manning is so unpredictable now that you don't know what he's going to be. You don't know if he's going to be good Eli or comedian Eli. But with that being said, I want to just move on to who I think is an underrated team. I think a team that's extremely underrated is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and here's why. The thing is that Tampa Bay has been doing a fantastic job rebuilding, into a playoff contender. And a lot of people don't seem that they can contend in that division because they feel like Atlanta's going to be fantastic. They think Carolina's going to bounce back. They think, I understand they play in a division that's extremely competitive, but I think if you look at what Tampa Bay added to that team in terms of getting O.J. Howard, I mean, that was a fantastic pickup by the Buccaneers. What else can I say in that you basically have been providing Jameis Winston with more weapons that are available to him so that he can manage to basically he can be extremely more productive. And I just think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to surprise people. They're definitely going to be in that wild card chase as well as the race to win that division, depending on how it is. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think O.J. Howard was a fantastic addition to that offense, and it's going to help open them up to more passing plays. And yeah, I think that Tampa Bay is extremely underrated.
All right, cool. All right, Josh, do you want to finish up yours?
Yeah. Well, kind of Ricky stole my underrated. I think the Bucs are underrated, so I'll go to my other underrated team, which they're not really underrated anymore, but they were underrated when I decided to tell them they were underrated, and that's the Titans. I think that
I was going to go with them too, but
I think the Titans, they don't get enough looks at all. No one's talking about them, and I think Marcus Mariota has progressed really, really well. Wes actually told me the other day that since he's been in the league, he hasn't thrown a red zone interception, and like that kind of blew my mind. I mean, that's poise, and then they have a stellar running game with DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. That defense gets its feet under them, and it starts, getting good like that. They have a strong running game, a smart quarterback. If they can get a good defense, that team's going to be tough to stop no matter who you are. So that's my underrated team.
Josh, you did say the Colts are your overrated team, and I believe you got interrupted while you were making a point. Could you just please reiterate that?
Yeah, my point is just that just because you have Andrew Luck doesn't make you good, and they haven't invested in anything else that team needs. They have a horrible, horrible offensive line. Their defense is non-existent. No one goes to the Colts and says, oh my God, I hope I don't have to face this guy who's like one playmaker on their defense still, It's just kind of – it's literally – I think that they're not because they have Andrew Luck and they're not the Browns. But sometimes I just wonder how they're even better than the Browns sometimes. I think the Browns are going to do decent this year. The Browns, Andrew Luck might not even start this season. And honestly, if Andrew Luck's not starting, I don't know what kind of chance in hell that team has to go anywhere.
I'm honest to God scared for Andrew Luck's life because I feel like he's being put in such a horrible position. If I'm him, I could not believe that yes, I understand. Yeah, you're the guy. But if I was Andrew Luck, I would be like, Jesus Christ, do I even play here anymore? Like, I can't get good protection because this offensive line sucks.
No, that's I just don't think that the Colts are very – I don't think that organization thought that out very well.
Now, I before we get to Hank, sorry for cutting you off,
no
but
worries,
before we get to Hank, I want to bring up this point.
No worries.
Do you think Andrew Luck will end up being like Tony Romo in that he's an extremely good quarterback, but his team will let him down and he won't, yes, I understand Andrew Luck has gotten to a AFC Championship appearance, but my whole thing is do you think that the Colts will do what the Cowboys did and end up wasting Andrew Luck's career and prime until the end?
No, because he's too young to even decide that right now. I mean, he is getting beat up, but also, and Ricky, this is no disrespect to you because I know he's your favorite quarterback ever, but I think Andrew Luck's 100 times better than Tony Romo. Not saying that Tony Romo's bad. I just think Andrew Luck is incredibly gifted, incredibly talented. Yeah. He has an incredible football mind. And the thing is he doesn't even have close to what Tony Romo had during his career. Tony Romo's had
agree with you.
Des Bryant, and he's played for the Cowboys. The Cowboys.
I just think
understand that at this point in Peyton Manning's career, I think it's been 5 seasons. I think at the very beginning, because I remember Peyton Manning's first season, the Colts went 3-13. He posted 26 touchdowns, 29 interceptions. And then the next year, they went 13-3. And then I think in 2000 and 2001, the Colts had 2 losing seasons. So understand that I just feel like it's too early to say what Andrew Luck is going to become and what the Colts are going to do, because football is such an up and down kind of thing.
Yeah, I get you. I mean, I completely agree with Josh. I think that if you give him the weapons, yes, D.Y. Hilton and all that other stuff, but I mean, if you can give him a decent offensive line like the Cowboys, hypothetically, if you put Andrew Luck, swap Tony Romo and Andrew Luck in 2014 or whatever, I guarantee you that Andrew Luck would put up better numbers than Tony Romo because of the quarterback he is. Yes, I think that Tony Romo was extremely talented, and he is very underrated, or possibly the most underrated quarterback ever. That's debatable, but that's a whole completely different argument. I just think, yes, with Andrew Luck, he's in a situation where we won't be able to see his full talent on display because he doesn't have enough help around him. So sorry for going on that little tangent there.
No worries.
But, okay, go ahead, Hank. What is your most overrated or underrated team?
My overrated team is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And here's why. I feel like with all the moves the Jacksonville Jaguars have made, they've kind of been overrated without the fact that Blake Bortles is still Blake Bortles. Like he needs to prove himself because it's his fourth season. And
yeah, did you hear what Allen Robinson said to him in camp?
Yeah, he was like,
I gotta hear this
throw
one.
Throw the ball to the inside. Don't
it wasn't even that
pylon.
nice, Hank. I watched the actual video, and he throws it out of bounds. Allen Robinson runs into somebody, and he goes, "Throw the fucking ball in bounds." God damn! Like he was so angry, and like the way his voice.
I was trying to do the PC version.
Oh, sorry, Hank, but no, he literally I'm gonna let it go because we're just on YouTube and on ours, so. Yeah. But we're not on the radio, so it's okay. But they're not happy there. Continue, Hank. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I just feel like right now their only real weapon is Leonard Fournette, and who knows what their offensive line's gonna be. I feel like. And Leonard Fournette, he actually played really well in that preseason game. I think he had a rushing touchdown. He bull rushed pretty well. But my issue with him is, one, he's not patient. He's like Trent Richardson, who would just bang himself into the line and just hope that he could find an opening. But I think that I think Fournette's gonna be better. The issue is I think they're gonna run Fournette into the ground. Like I think that in 4 seasons he's gonna be like damaged goods.
Yeah, dude.
You think so?
I think because then again we don't know what their plan is, because if they're trying to protect Blake Bortles, they will definitely run Leonard Fournette into the ground. And yes, they did get Cam Robinson, I believe, and that was a great move by them in terms of building up that O line. I'm just worried about Leonard Fournette because if he ends up, yes, he'll probably put up stellar numbers, maybe, but yeah, I just think they might run him into the ground.
I just think they're gonna run him into the ground, and it's not gonna be positive for that team that's basically just now being built off of the running back position, and they've got Robinson and they've got a bunch of other guys on their team, but I don't see them having much. I mean, they might have some success this year. They might be 7-9, 8-8, depending on it. All depends on Blake Bortles, but I'm not really that impressed by his abilities. And
he had a great year for me in fantasy that one year. I mean, he had
it was like 32 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, or something like that.
Yeah, him and Allen squared though, dude. Those two Allens, the Allen Hurns and the Allen Robinson, those two guys together with Blake Bortles, that looked like the next big threat, dude. That looked like that, but now it doesn't.
But his mechanics are garbage. Now, when it came to underrated teams, I was also going to choose the Buccaneers. The reason why I don't think the Titans are an underrated team, I guess Josh and I like watch and listen to different things, because I don't think that the Titans are an underrated team. I think that they're placed at just the right spot. You know, I think that a lot of people expect them to have a great season, you know. So I'm not going to choose either one of those teams because I don't think the Titans are underrated, and Ricky already chose the Buccaneers. So the team that I'm going to choose as a team that's underrated, I mean, it really is a tough one. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say the Washington Redskins, just because I'm not saying that the Redskins are gonna make the playoffs or anything like that, but I never expect them to do anything. They always seem to come out with it seems like they come in with a bunch of nobodies, and the fact that Kirk Cousins is possibly unhappy with his position on the Washington Redskins. I'm just going to say the Redskins because, I never expect them to beat the Eagles every year, but they always do.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I expect them to be like 8-8, possibly. I don't know. Yeah.
I just think with the Washington Redskins, I think Kirk Cousins might end up like I don't. I think that he might end up doing some things. I'm not saying he's gonna purposefully tank,
Yeah.
but
That'd
like
be dumb.
I think that he might end up just giving the middle finger and be like, I ain't signed no franchise. What are you gonna do? Franchise tag? You can't franchise tag a player twice in a row.
Yeah, you can.
You can, but I think
You can't.
I think you
Isn't
can.
it
I think you
super
can even
hecka
do it.
expensive?
I think you can even do it 3 times in a row too.
I think my dad was saying that there's no limit on the franchise.
No, there
tag.
is a limit. I think there's a 3-season limit or something like that.
Yeah, the point being is that you can't just keep franchise tagging the guy, and eventually, you like, what are you gonna do? Just keep franchise tagging him?
And it would
Whatever.
also be really stupid for him to, in a situation where he wants to be like 28, 29, $30 million quarterback, it'd be really foolish for him to tank and not do well because
yeah.
he's gonna lose his value.
Oh no, I completely agree with you. I'm just saying, like, there is a possibility,
Yeah.
But so with that being said, let's move on to Mr. Roger Goodell and the entire Ezekiel Elliott suspension fiasco that's been going on. So the players' union and the NFL have been getting into it. It's been getting really ugly. So recently, the NFL came out with a statement. We all know about the whole Zeke suspension. I don't have to get into the details with that. But most recently, the NFL came out with a statement calling out the players' union for bashing Tiffany Thompson and calling her a liar, pretty much. When
I think they said they shamed. I think it was they shamed her. Was the
yeah, whatever, same indifference, whatever. Anyway,
slut shaming, yay! No,
no, but with that being said, I just think the NFL need this case. Yeah, sure. If you hate the Dallas Cowboys, you might think that, oh yeah, this is funny. This dude's gonna ended up getting 6 games. The Cowboys' season's gonna get ruined. I could care less about that. What I care about is this shouldn't be setting a terrible precedent in the future. Because imagine, I could say Carson Wentz just hit me and raped me,
right?
And like I can make this whole story up, and like people would make it believe. And I understand it's an extremely serious issue, and I'm not trying to make it a laughing matter.
No, I know.
But the point is that this could cause people to start fabricating stories to try and blackmail players in order to get money.
Yeah,
they've done that forever, Ricky.
And
that's not.
Yes, I know they've done that.
New thing though. Like that's always gonna happen.
No, I know. No,
it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how strict the rules are. It doesn't matter that there's nothing Roger Goodell could do about that. You know what he did, and I know that we argue that he has a lot of power. But when the Ray Rice thing happened, he said, if you get in trouble for domestic violence, it's a 6-game suspension. That's what he said.
I understand. Yes, I completely understand that, and I'm not saying that I don't know every single detail about the entire Ezekiel Elliott situation. There might be evidence that comes out and says, yeah, he did hit Tiffany Thompson and did all that. Yeah, then I'd definitely say, yeah, then he deserves the 6-game suspension. I understand that.
No,
but the thing is,
here's the thing. Here's the thing that Ezekiel Elliott is saying right now. I did not hit her. That is bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh hi, Roger.
That kind of sums it up. But I mean, like from what I've been, I just think this is gonna get ugly. And I mean, yes, the appeal has been filed, so they have 10 days to schedule a date. And I don't know if they scheduled a date yet, but the thing is that I just don't know what this is gonna result in. Now, I will say this though: if this ends, so say hypothetically the suspension holds up, which it probably will, and Zeke wants to take this to the courts. The problem is then it becomes the matter of, does Roger Goodell, is he overstepping his boundaries as NFL commissioner, which clearly he isn't because of the CBA and how terrible it doesn't really protect players in these kinds of instances in terms of what it does for the law. And I understand everything is a case-by-case issue. So I understand,
here's the issue. Didn't the CBA give Roger Goodell this kind of power?
Yes, that's what I was going to bring up. It gave him this kind of power. So if they end up going to court about this, Elliott will probably lose because they will say, well, Roger Goodell is entitled to his powers based on the CBA that was agreed upon in 2010. So, I just, me personally, I think that the NFL, what is very irking to me is the fact that they say they have a 160-page report gathered with evidence and crap that says that Elliott's done all this. Then release it. But here's the thing: I think that they're not going to release it because
first of all, I don't know how anyone could have a 160-page report about one little thing that, I mean, probably like 20 pages at most, but like 160 pages, like is this like 72? Is this 72 font? Quadruple
yeah,
space.
Double space. No, but you know what? It's interesting, Hank, is the fact that just today I just found this out. There were documents released that apparently Ezekiel Elliott's accuser admitted to talking to one of the friends of hers to leveraging to release sex tapes in order to gain money. She was going to charge $10,000 a piece so that she can make money for plastic surgery.
Wow.
I kid you not. And you think, and listen, again, and I completely think that the issue is that yes, domestic violence is a big issue, and the NFL is still trying to recover from the Ray Rice situation. But at the end of the day, again, it's a case-by-case situation, and in this case, it's looking more and more, according to what I've been seeing, anything can happen to prove me wrong, that Elliott is innocent in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, I think he's innocent too. It's just
a weird situation
about it.
It's a weird situation because what do? You hear that he's being charged with domestic violence, and you've said that you have to give a 6-game suspension, but then it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't give the suspension until you find out what happens. But then at the same time, you're like, oh, so this guy might be on trial for this, and we're just letting him play and make millions of dollars and like be on TV every day. So it's a tough situation to be in. You have to look at it from both sides.
I
don't know what they could do. I don't know what the NFL could do. I don't know if there's a way that they could keep it more under wraps. But I mean, just with the social media and how everything gets leaked now and every story's out there, it just makes it tough because you want to be able to, because you want to punish people who do something wrong. You want to, I guess, unless you're Josh Brown, unless you're Josh Brown, the kicker for the Giants, he like didn't get punished at first. Yeah. But it's just weird. It's a weird situation.
I told Ricky this. Either Ezekiel Elliott is innocent and he's getting completely screwed over, or Ezekiel Elliott is guilty of all these crimes, and our justice system is the most inept thing on the planet.
Okay, yeah, and it's like, I think that also the NFL, let me tell you something. If it takes you, okay, the events happen in July of 2016.
Uh-huh.
And you're telling me that it takes over a year. Now, I understand that some cases might take years to, solve. But you're telling me that you could have, I was having a conversation with some friends. They were like, yeah, they weren't going to suspend him immediately.
Uh-huh.
Because, he had good ratings for the NFL.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You're telling me that Joe Mixon can punch a woman in the face and he doesn't get any disciplinary action. Yeah. Yes, I understand he wasn't in the league.
And it gets caught on camera, too.
Yes, that's the thing. He got caught on camera.
Yeah.
If Ezekiel Elliott, if this was Ezekiel Elliott, for example, punching his Tiffany Thompson in the face or hitting her, completely different situation because we have evidence that says he has done that. But in this case, there is no evidence that currently, and again, it still irks me the fact that the NFL gets 160 pages worth of quote unquote evidence, yet you don't want to release it because you think
it'll make you look bad.
Come on.
I mean, it was the same thing with Bountygate. Some unnamed unnamed player comes out and is like, "Hey, Roger Goodell, guess what? The Saints have a bounty system, and Jonathan Vilma is in on it, and so is the defensive coordinator, and so is Sean Payton."
I completely understand. I just think that yes, I know people have been blackmailed numerous times. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
That's happened for the most part in any sport. But the thing is, is it's not just the blackmailing.
Mhm.
That's not the part I'm trying to get at. The part I'm trying to get at is people will try to fabricate stories. Yes, people have done this. I'm just saying it could create a precedent to where this can happen to any NFL player.
Yeah.
Any. And it could happen to Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott. It could happen to Eli Manning.
Exactly.
I mean, I know he has the whole memorabilia crap, but that's a whole different
Exactly.
story.
Yeah.
But anybody can, like, accuse someone of something. And yes, also people are saying, well, it's because of Jerry Jones. People are thinking he's the actual commissioner, and they were trying to take Jerry down a notch. Whatever. But at the end of the day, if you think for a minute, like, but the problem also is Elliott's image is forever
tarnished.
Tarnished because people will think, yeah, he's a woman beater, and some people will think, no, he's innocent. What are you talking about? And that is the biggest thing.
Well,
about this whole case.
He's not 100% innocent. He's like 95% most likely innocent.
Yeah,
we don't know.
The point, I guess, the point I'm trying to make is that if he is innocent, I mean, even if he's innocent or guilty, that image will stay with him for the rest of his life because people will say, "Oh, he's a woman beater," even if he's innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And some people say, "No, he's innocent. What are you talking about? Evidence has proven that he has not done that." And that's the same thing what happened with Ben Roethlisberger. You know, he's accused of rape
twice,
I believe, and people will think of him as a rapist. I
think there's more of a chance that Ben did it than.
Again, that is true. It's a completely different situation.
Because they both happen. They both happen in Georgia restrooms at bars.
Why there? Like at all places.
It's because them Georgia girls were thirsty. Anyway. So do you want to go on to buy or sell?
Sure, why not?
All right, here's my.
I'm not sure if Josh had anything else on the whole.
Yeah, did you have anything else, Josh?
No. We talk about this a lot, and I just think it's an issue that the NFL is trying to get its hands on because, I mean, I think it's one of the most disturbing things ever. Like, you know, and I just don't like that these women may be doing this, but it's been so prevalent in the NFL that it's just more like, why shouldn't we believe her?
To me,
you know, I know that all the evidence is pointing contradictory right now, but when it first came out, I mean, it really is just like, why would I believe her?
Yeah,
I mean, it's happened so much.
It's super like in rape cases and in abuse cases like this. Like, if you even say like, oh, I don't believe her because of this and that reason, like, you're immediately like a woman hater. You know what I'm saying? Like, not you're like, look, oh, how could you not believe her? Like, for instance, when Nelson Aguilar was accused of sexual battery in a strip club, I remember, like, Kelly was the one who told me about it. She, like, texted me. She was like, look what happened. It looks really bad. And then it ended up that, like, nothing ever happened, and all the Eagles fans wished that it had, you know?
no, but I think that what makes this extremely ugly is the fact that now the NFL and the NFLPA are going, like, they're going for bad blood, considering the words they've been using on both sides.
Yeah,
it's like this is gonna get very ugly for the next week or two.
Yeah,
and I just can't wait for this to end because at the end of the day, this is just awful.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay, so let's move on to buy or sell, or whatever you use.
So, the new guy, the new poster child or the new poster boy for Black Lives Matter, and I guess kneeling during the national anthem or sitting down during the national anthem is Michael Bennett, the defensive end for the Seattle Seahawks, and it's not Marshawn Lynch. Okay, we all know that he was just sitting down eating a banana. I don't think he would ever stand during the national anthem, just because I don't think he cares, and I don't think he gives like a rat's ball sack about any of that. So, it's Michael Bennett, right? And they said, I heard someone talk about or mention what would happen, that it would be like a good thing if a white football player joined Michael Bennett's cause of kneeling during the national anthem. So my question here is, do you buy or sell that a white football player will join that cause of kneeling during the national anthem? Because so far it's only been like black players.
Yeah.
So buy or sell.
I'll buy it eventually.
Yeah, like
They're not
like
all shitheads in the NFL.
Yeah, that's like a buy. I would say that's a buy because, like, there could be a possibility that might happen, but I mean, to be fair,
but in many cases it could be considered like career suicide.
I just think, and I know we had a conversation about this, Hank, Sunday.
Yeah.
I just think people are stupid if you think that it's okay if certain people do certain things because rights. It's like theoretically you have the right to call someone out, but also they have the right to respond to you as well as do what they feel is in the boundary or whatever's in the boundaries of the Constitution that it permits, whatever. At the end of the day, I just think that I'm actually going to sell it because I don't have enough. I don't think there's as of the moment. There's no one. I'm not saying no one will at any moment, but I think as of right now, and considering what's going on, I don't think anybody's gonna,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Hank?
I think eventually, but I do think that it potentially could be career suicide for that player, especially if they're not like a really good player, Like if it was a Tom Brady, then maybe, but it would never that would never happen.
You don't think Tom Brady would ever do it?
No.
Well, clearly not. I don't think he would.
I mean, Tom Brady Tom Brady supports Donald Trump,
Oh no, we're gonna get the Trump supporters coming in here harassing us. Be like, how dare you insult our Lord and Savior? Like, oh my god. Like, shut up. Like, the dude's a moron. Like, come on. And listen, you have a right to whatever political opinion you want. I'm not that to harass that. But at the end of the day, I have a right to call that idiot out on anything.
Right. All right. So any more buy or sells?
Yeah, I got a buy or sell for you.
Okay.
Buy or sell. Mitchell Trubisky will not be the starter week 1 for the Chicago Bears.
I buy that. I don't think he's going to be the starter. You paid Glennon too much money.
Sell. Did you see that interception he threw for the touchdown?
Wasn't that on his first pass?
It was the first preseason game, guys. You can't put too much stock in that.
No, I know, but like, I did though. I'm
buying that Trubisky will not start week 1. Now, you didn't say anything about week 2, 3, or 4, or even starting later on in the game. He's just not going to be the starter come game 1 of the regular season.
No, I got you. I mean, I'm going to buy that as well. I mean, clearly he won't start the season, but
yeah,
maybe.
I think he will just be. I think it was a mistake to sign Mike Glennon to that much money.
Oh yeah.
I just don't think. I mean, just based off of the monetary reasons, maybe he'll be the starter. But I mean, Nelson Aguilar's getting paid. I think like something like $5 million, and he's going to be like the number 5 receiver.
I actually got a fun buy or sell for Hank, and he's going to enjoy this one.
All right.
Buy or sell. Nelson Aguilar gets cut before the season begins.
Sell, because sell, because financially he can't. They take too much of a cap hit. The only way he gets cut is if they're looking at it and they're like, he just not even deserve. Like, he's worse than Ward. He's worse than Johnson. He's worse than Paul Turner. He's worse than Bryce Treggs. And we'd rather have them on the team than him. You know?
Okay.
Because I think one of the other reasons why they traded Jordan Matthews was because they felt as though that Aguilar had better route running and better speed to be a slot receiver, and he had more of the ability to be better. But I mean, let's be honest here. We got Ronald Darby. He's probably better than anyone the Eagles have had over the last 4 seasons at cornerback. So I'm not. It doesn't really matter because we have Jeffrey Smith, Hollins.
So you don't have to be quiet, okay?
So yeah, I'm gonna sell.
Okay, I'm going to sell as well. I just think Nelson Aguilar is too good right now. He's just so fantastic. You know, you can't cut him.
He's the GOAT.
Yes, he's definitely the GOAT. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame. He's better than Jerry Rice. He's better than Randy Moss. He's better than Terrell Owens. He's better than me. But
He's better than me. and Ricky was an All-American wide receiver.
I'm an All-American wide receiver, 5'4", 120 pounds, best slot receiver known to man.
All right, so I think that's it for now. You have one?
I have one more buy or sell question for you guys.
Go ahead.
Buy or sell? The Madden curse makes a resurrection on Tom Brady this year.
Yes, I buy that. Buy that so hard. I think Tom Brady is gonna hit the wall this year. I really do. I think age is gonna catch up to him. Hey, anything can happen. And heck, I just probably jinxed everything.
Yeah, you're supposed to sell it and be like, oh no, there's no way that happens to Tom Brady.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I saw that. There's no possible way that happens to Tom Brady. Absolutely not. We can't have our Lord and Savior Tom Brady have a slump.
I'm gonna sell, because the one thing I've noticed about quarterbacks that win the Super Bowl and are put on the Madden curse, they rarely ever get affected. Like, you could say, I mean, the quarterbacks who have won the Super Bowl who have been on the Madden cover, have been Brett Favre, Drew Brees, and now Tom Brady. And Brett Favre really wasn't he had won the Super Bowl more than a decade beforehand. So yeah. I'm just gonna sell just based off the fact that quarterbacks that win Super Bowls don't really suffer from that curse.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Good logic there.
Yeah. So just to close with, tomorrow I'll be doing what I did last week with the Eagles-Packers game. I'm just basically gonna be sitting there watching the game, and I'll be commenting on it. I think if Ricky wants to,
I'll be there.
Yeah,
because it's all on cable.
But the best thing is, if you want anyone watching or anyone listening, if you want to come on and watch the stream, I'm not going to be streaming the game. I'm gonna have the audio in the background, because last time, due to possibly a misleading title, people thought that I was actually going to be streaming the game, but that's not going to happen. The game will not be streamed.
And before we conclude, just want to say just thoughts, and we hope everything is all right down in Charlottesville. I know everything's getting crazy. So I just hope everything's fine. I hope we just get, move past this. Nothing crazy. I just don't, I've been seeing all over the internet people hating on each other. I just want people to it's not be crazy.
It's super messed up.
For God's sake, just sacrifice Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, right.
I mean, no, okay, but in all seriousness, though, I just hope everything's fine down there. Yeah. We got 2 spots open in our fantasy football. I'll be honest. I don't know if we could fill them up, so you might have to look for people.
Did Wes join?
Oh, I can find a couple.
Yeah, Wes didn't join yet. just I sent him the invite multiple times.
He might just be busy.
What's up?
When do you want to do the selection ceremony?
I wanted to do it Saturday, but I wanted to do it Saturday mainly because so we know like a week before the draft or 2 weeks before, so people can prepare. I mean, I'm already prepared, but I want to try and do it Saturday. So if you guys could find, I think 2 more spots will be fantastic, and then I'll send out a message and video.
You want to do it this Saturday?
Hey, I want to do it sometime this week so I can get it done and over with.
Why? There's still so many preseason games left. What happens if you draft somebody and they get hurt?
No, it's not. It's not a draft. It's the draft lottery to where we find who gets the position on the, like who gets the pick first and who gets put in what position.
Yeah,
Trust me, I'm going to do it.
I told Ricky to at least do it to like at the soonest
in September
after the 3rd preseason game. At the not soonest, like at like way after.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
I was thinking like September 2nd.
People do the fantasy draft really early, and I don't understand why. I'm like, you're what? Oh yeah,
what?
Remember in our draft last year, someone picked Teddy Bridgewater because we drafted before the 4th preseason game.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But
yeah,
I don't know,
that's what I'm saying. We can continue this conversation off the air.
Yes, we're good, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, all those Giants fans love me now for my comments.
Right.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this little 2 birds and a third football podcast. You can tell how late it is. Right. No, but with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed.
All right, guys, have a great night.
Yep, everybody have a good night.